PSC, together with other organisations in Britain, including our own, CPGB-ML, have quite rightly called protests against Israel's war crimes. I attended, as we mentioned, one such spirited but peaceful protest last Sunday on the 28th December 2008. At this picket, I witnessed the resurgence of unusually heavy-handed policing. The police physically assaulted both myself and others on the demonstration before arresting me literally for nothing. I know my real crime was to be there and to protest against Israel's actions, but literally people were being arrested for nothing. They later gave me in the cell a code of police conduct to study. It was all I was allowed to read. And I did note that according to their conduct code, that they recognise that to arrest someone is to seriously infringe their basic human right to freedom, and therefore it said certain conditions, 2 conditions in fact, have to be satisfied. The first of these must be the officer in question must believe I was committing an offence, which he manifestly didn't. And 2, the arresting officer must believe that it's necessary to arrest me as the only way to deal with the offence, which wasn't being carried out, so manifestly neither criteria was met. I was released but must return on the 26th of January, by which time they'll decide whether to charge me under the Public Order Act, Section 5, which I now understand, they didn't explain to me at the time, means threatening words and behaviour. So there you have it, threatening words and behaviour.
Being a big lad.
Absolutely. But I think an increase in police powers is something that we have all witnessed recently, with successive acts being passed to empower the police to detain people seemingly limitlessly, but if they invoke the right sections, certainly for 72 days without trial, etc., etc. In fact, the powers which formerly they used just to occupy the north of Ireland, they've gradually extended to cover the whole of the mainland. So as Marx famously says, no nation which enslaves another can itself be free. And we're seeing that the prophetic fulfilment of this sentiment, in that if the British don't take up the struggle to take the Irish out of their conditions of oppression, then ultimately these conditions of oppression come to rest on the British workers themselves, and they are coming to rest on the British workers themselves. And we're seeing that with increasing levels of surveillance in our society as well. So it seems that the aim is to put each member of the British public under massive scrutiny, allowing the prescription of political opposition to all imperialism's crimes. And it would be really dangerous for us to allow them to succeed. While I was detained, the police demanded mouth swabs for DNA fingerprinting, as well as fingerprinting, as well as photo shots and all the rest of it. When I asked why, they said this was to confirm my ID. Well, I pointed out they didn't have my fingerprints and they didn't have my DNA, and it would confirm nothing, and I'd give them my ID. They said it's for prospective checks. Okay, so they're going to look to see if you've committed any crimes. Now, obviously, their main argument was, well, if you haven't done anything, you got nothing to be worried about.
Yeah.
And yet, as I pointed out to them, well, I have done nothing, and yet here I am in your police station, you know, having my liberty taken from me for nothing. He goes, well, you say nothing, but I can't say that I wasn't there. But this is the logic of the oppressor, to leave you without causative ends, to leave you at their mercy, and then it's up to them to interpret the law, to tell you what you can be doing and can't be doing, and obviously then resistance to their greater crimes and their larger machinations becomes absolutely impossible. I refused, actually, in the first instance, to give my fingerprints and DNA and all the rest of it, and I was told that they would do it by force. He said, we'll get the TSG, which is the Territorial Support Group, or the Riot Police. They'll come along and they'll take it by force. They love hurting people like you, and I'll fucking love it, he goes. Okay, thanks very much. So then they threw me in a cell immediately for 5 hours without giving me water. That's only 5 hours. Without giving me food, without letting me make a phone call, without informing anyone of my whereabouts. My wife's 25 weeks pregnant. I said, at least let her know where I am. I don't want her to be stressed. Nothing. Without legal advice, without paper and pen I'd asked for. In fact, they'd given me a list of all the rights I could expect, and then systematically denied every single one of them to me. So during which time they threatened to keep me indefinitely if I didn't comply. And when I pointed out that according to this sheet, actually, for the reason they'd arrested me, they could only keep me 24 hours. They didn't answer me, they just put me back in the cell. Then later on, an inspector came to see me and said, oh, well, we won't keep you indefinitely, but what we'll do is we'll just take you straight to court in the morning. So without letting you muster any kind of defence, essentially, and so it'll just be me against all of the evidence concocted by the police officers. It'll just be me and your statements. Sorry, just be you and our statements is what it said to me. But you make up your own words, up to you. So eventually I could see I was onto a hiding for nothing, and probably against my better judgment I relented, but the law currently gives them the power to do this. So if you can be arrested and detained, I mean, I was never actually told you're arrested, I was never told you're detained, I was never told I was charged, I was just literally, I was let through the crowd. I was in the crowd and they were like, get out, go back. I was in the crush, I said, there's nowhere for me to go. They said, oh well, come this way then. They took me through the police lines, put me in cuffs, and before I knew it I was at the station. So if you can be literally arrested and detained for no reason, have your fingerprints taken, your DNA taken, identified, photo fitted, then you're quite literally being criminalised. And this was my argument certainly at the police station, that they were criminalising me. And they had no idea why they were doing it. It's just routine, it's just their job. The officers who detained me, after cuffing my hands behind my back and throwing me to the floor, also wanted to express their views about one or two things. He said, we're too soft on your lot in this country. If I had my way, I'd water cannon the lot of you. But what he really wanted to get his hands on were tasers. Tasers, which are these guns for electrocuting people. And he said, we wish we had real guns. I said, how would guns help you? He said, well, if we shot some of your lot, we'd be safer. Some of you scum, in fact, are the words he used. I pointed out to him that guns really would just lead to an escalation, and it wouldn't make him safer, they'd make him more likely to get shot, as well as a lot of other people. His reply was basically, oh, shut up, and I'd like to get your loan so I can beat the hell out of you. So you can see, I told him his behaviour was worthy of the Israeli Defence Force. You know, I wouldn't say it was exactly equivalent, but worthy. The spirit was there. It was slightly restricted. And though this was lost on his kind of scouse thug he was, it's an important point. Okay, his precisely is the logic of peace through overwhelming firepower, which is precisely the logic of the Zionist state and its oppression, and it's rotten to the core. Israel cannot be made safer by effecting regime change or any other attack it makes on the Palestinian people, who after 50 years of oppression have quite simply refused to be ethnically cleansed and refused to be wiped off the faces of the pages of history.